Official visit season is hitting the Oklahoma Sooners pretty well. We got another commitment to talk about on today's episode of Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase every day over there at Game Time. I'm John Williams of Sooners Wire at USA Today Sports. He's Jay Smith of Unfair Sports. Check him out on YouTube as well. On today's show, we're going to talk about the SEC quarterbacks that Oklahoma faces in 2025, and we're going to rank them 1 through 8. I know y'all are going to love that, especially you SEC fans are going to dig that for sure. We're going to discuss what Paul Finebaum had to say most recently about John Mateer, but we're going to start with this here on Locked On Sooners. Again, your team every day. We got to talk about Derek Johnson II committing to the Oklahoma Sooners on Tuesday, Jay.
Oklahoma got themselves another 3-star corner who also is a big body guy. This is the one thing that jumped out to me. 6'2", 100 and roughly 70, 180 pounds, John. Isn't that what we've always said we want Oklahoma to do? Get big physical corners who can keep up with the defense. He also runs track. So I think he ran the 100 as well, and the 200 in high school. Couldn't find his times, but you know he's a track kid. You know that he's physical. He likes to hit. Watching his film, John, what jumped out to me is he does get in the backfield, and he does some really good job of open field tackling. That was probably the biggest complaint about the Sooners pre-Brent Venables was the ability to actually wrap up, tackle, and close out on that. Well, Oklahoma can do that now, and we're seeing a massive improvement over the years, less broken tackles. Derek Johnson's going to add to that because, like I said, he's a big, physical, and rangy cornerback.
You talk about the physicality. That's the thing that really stood out to me, not just at the catch point, coming up and taking on blockers. There's several highlights in there where he is just dispatching a blocker with a shoulder and then going and make a tackle. Like the dude is ready to hit. And it reminds you of a Gentry Williams or an Eli Bowen out there on the outside, guys that are really willing to come up and stick their nose in to make a tackle. And that's huge. In the modern era of college football where so much is played sideline to sideline, you got to have corners that are ready to come up and make a tackle, to come up and take on blocks so that other guys can come up and make the tackle. It's that part of that team defense that you have to have. And the other thing that really I liked what I saw was the way that he played in man coverage. He's sticky. He has really good lateral agility. He can move side to side. He's got the speed. You talked about running track. The speed shows up on his tape, and that's the most impressive thing. You see a lot of times guys are fast, but maybe not football fast. Well, he plays fast. And to me, that's also what Jim Nagy and Brent Venables seem to be looking for this cycle, is guys that just play fast on the defensive side of the ball. This is another one of those guys in Derek Johnson II that does that. You talked about the length. That length matters, especially when you're playing man-to-man. You're trying to track the ball down the field. You're running a lot of verticals. Being able to play with some length. One of the issues that we saw with Eli Bowen last year was when he was even in phase, he was in good coverage, struggled a little bit to get his head around, make a play on the football. Again, some of that is size, some of that is technique, but Derek Johnson II has the size component taken care of. He also plays wide receiver. So you know that he's going to be able to track the football down the sideline and make a play on the ball. He's a very, very good athlete. And I like this addition. Again, talk about the 3-star. That's fine. Who cares? Jim Nagy likes him. Brent Venables likes him. Jay Valai likes him. I like him.
Same. I'm in the boat of get as many big corners as you possibly can, and we can work out the details later. Like, he's kind of one that, like, our excitement around Cortland Guillory when we got his commitment, a lot of schools wanted him, and as the year went on, his rankings start to go up. I think you see the same thing with Derek Johnson, especially because he's got that size and he's pretty rangy, and as he gets out there and does more camps and they get to really see him perform, I can expect him to make a nice little jump, get himself into a low, because he's considered a high 3-star. So that means that he'll probably fly into the low to mid 4-star range over the next few weeks as the reevaluations start to happen. And also the power of Jim Nagy will probably push him up and propel him because truth be told, a lot of these recruiting sites leverage some of the coaches to where you'll see certain schools get a certain player and then their player jump up. It's because they know that they're really good evaluators of talent. And with Nagy and his staff's approach, which we talked about yesterday, their whole goal is to get Brent Venables and Miguel Chavis, Todd Bates, get, Coach Dreiling as well as Coach Goodwin, get them all a bunch of guys that look like they could play at the next level, which in turn gets you a bunch of guys that can play in the SEC. And so my expectation is the rating sites are going to pick up real quick. The recruiting sites are going to leverage their eye for talent. And you'll probably start seeing some guys get a quote unquote OU leap once they commit or they get an offer from Oklahoma.
So you look at the guys or the teams that Oklahoma had to beat out in this recruitment. Listen, it's a West Coast recruitment for the most part, but you do have teams like Nebraska on there. But you run down the list. It's Utah, Kansas, Washington, UCLA, Arizona, Arizona State, TCU, Cal, BYU, Colorado State. But look, we got Michigan State, Minnesota, Nebraska. What are they known for? Some toughness.
Yes.
So these guys, these schools saw something in Derek Johnson II that said, hey, I want this guy on my team. And they made that offer. So the offer sheet may not have as many SEC teams on it as we'd like, but a lot of times that's going to be what happens with some of the California kids. It's going to be a lot of West Coast programs coming after him, some Big Ten programs as well. But again, he's a good player, and he's one of those guys that has a chance to continue to get better. Because when you're playing 6'2" and you're a corner, it's kind of hard at the high school level because you're still figuring your body out. As you get older and you get more comfortable with the way your body works, he's going to get better and better over time as well. And you get him into that strength and conditioning program with Oklahoma, and you're going to be able to add a little bit of meat to the bones and get him up closer to maybe 190, 200. And it's going to make him that more dynamic because he's going to be able to be a little bit more physical, even so, at the line of scrimmage with these wide receivers. So again, it's a good pickup for Oklahoma. I know everybody wants to see more blue chippers added to the class. At the same time, you're going to see a number of 3-star prospects that they believe they can develop and make into future starters at this level or at the NFL level.
Yeah, that's what's critical. You got to have guys that look like and could play at the next level. And of course, again, one of the bigger complaints from Sooner fans was the size of some corners that we would get. And honestly, Eli Bowen has outshined even his height. I mean, there are some disadvantages to that when it comes to tracking the ball and knowing when to make the jump to prevent yourself from getting a pass interference. But if you had a more 6'2" dudes that are really good at tracking the ball and have really good footwork, I think you'd be fine. So the expectation from me from Oklahoma is to get a lot more dudes just like this. And I'm hoping that, some of the other visitors that came through, Oklahoma's able to close in that capacity. But yeah, I can see the Sooners landing some really good talent that's going to be a lot bigger, the more sizier guys going forward with this new front office regime.
The Oklahoma Sooners are hoping that a big addition from the offseason is going to make the biggest difference. Paul Finebaum had something to say about John Mateer. We'll discuss that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. There's nothing like the NBA playoffs, the intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds. We've seen it already between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers. It's the kind of atmosphere you must experience live, and this year's matchups are already delivering. If you want in, Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats, even for the biggest playoff games. Prices on the app actually drop closer to tip-off, and with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer. We're just looking at the app for OKC and Indiana, and there are still some great deals available for you over in Game Time. I love that I can see my seat view before I buy. There's no surprises, no concerns about the angle of where the court's going to be at. I get a great view inside the app. The app makes it ridiculously simple. 2 taps and you're done. And you can also get the Game Time guarantee, knowing you're getting the best deal. If you find a better price in the same row, same section, they'll credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed over at Game Time. Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Paul Finebaum was on the Paul Finebaum show, had this to say about John Mateer. He said, I think John Mateer is going to fit in very well. This is based on people who have seen him perform out there and those who know the Sooners depth chart. I really like what I see. It's a big year, a couple of tricky games. The second half of the schedule to me is littered with tough road games. So Paul Finebaum's been complimentary of what Oklahoma's building over this offseason and of John Mateer. What stood out to you in that, Jay?
As the summer has progressed, not season, but summer, as the summer has progressed, we're starting to see a lot of these talking heads really pay attention to what's going on in Oklahoma. They're starting to get more intimate with the inner workings. I mean, everyone raved about the Jim Nagy hire. Everyone raved about the hiring at the linebacker spot that Brent Venables did, and now he's taking over the play calling. They're trying to see, okay, I think that Oklahoma and Brent Venables are going to the ship's going to get leveled. Then you start to see Ben Arbuckle's a really good hire. Then you get the top quarterback at the time out of the transfer portal, and of course, the skepticism was, the competition was meh, I guess you could say. But you realize a gamer is a gamer. And then as more people are coming around the program, they're like, oh no, this is different. And they're starting to watch the film of John Mateer. They're like, oh no, kid's different. And we're starting to see that more and more. So as the propaganda machine keeps coming out from Oklahoma with like the highlights and stuff from practice, you're starting to see and hear that people are like, okay, yeah, he's going to be a lot different and probably a lot better than people expect. I mean, I know Cam Ward gave Arbuckle and Coach John Kuziewski the stamp of approval, when he went number 1, taking a picture with them and having them there on draft day. That they were an integral part of his development. And so, to me, John Mateer now should be able to follow. I'm not saying he's going number 1 in the draft, but I'm saying he should be able to exceed all expectations when it comes to that. And I think Paul Finebaum, as we're getting closer to the year, is seeing and hearing more and more of that from a lot of people around him, that now he's jumping on board as well.
Yeah, it's easy to downplay what John Mateer did last year. At the same time, we've seen players make the jump. Diego Pavia was able to make the jump from New Mexico State to beat Alabama. I mean, it's possible to make the jump. Diego Pavia was one of the biggest stories of the 2024 college football season because he played well. John Mateer has the talent, has the tools, has the mentality to come up, make that jump, and play well against an SEC schedule. Is it going to be tough? Yeah, it's going to be tough. I don't think anybody is discounting the idea that the SEC defenses are tougher than what he's playing against. But you don't make this move unless you think he can make the jump. You don't add him unless you think he's ready to take on that level of competition. Is he going to put up 40 total touchdowns and nearly 40,000 total yards? Maybe not. But if the defense is as good as we hope it's going to be or think it's going to be, you don't need him to. You need him to put up 3,500 total yards and 30-something total touchdowns, and that's fine with the Jaden Ott in the backfield and Xavier Robinson and Taylor Tatum. You don't have to ride John Mateer and have him carry you in every single game. Hopefully that's the case.
Yeah.
If you do have to ride him and he does have to carry you, you have bigger problems. But he should be able to go in there and play the John Mateer ball, but not have to be the end all be all like we've seen in years past because you didn't have a defense. So I'm encouraged. I'm excited. What did you make of what he said about the schedule?
I agree with him. That 5-game stretch in the middle of the season feels really tough for me for Oklahoma. But the other thing, John, is, and we talked about this, ad nauseum, is Oklahoma has some built-in breaks, especially for those road games. Like, they don't have a single back-to-back road game. The game against Tennessee has a bye week. Then they play against Alabama, which to me is still favorable. Nobody else really has that. And we'll break down the schedule later on to really go in and look at, what our opponents are playing right before they play Oklahoma. And a lot of them have complained about that, which is pretty, interesting that's their issue, is that why do we got to play this tough team before we play this other tough team? I think Oklahoma's schedule, they got a thrown a bone, even though it's a tough one. But yeah, that middle 5-game stretch and in the end, it's going to be tough. But having your last 2 games of the season at home, to me, is kind of a godsend, especially with how gruesome the schedule can be if the opposition is as good as we expect.
Well, you go to Texas or you go to the Cotton Bowl, and then you're SEC the rest of the way. There's no FCS game in there mixed in. It's all SEC games. And so you're going to be in the thick of it every single week. And that's going to determine how well Oklahoma responds to that is going to determine their success level. But I think, again, they're going to be more capable of playing this schedule this year than they were last year. They have a better understanding of what it's going to take. They have a better idea of what their roster looks like. It's a healthier roster going into, summertime workouts and the fall camp. And that's going to make a big difference, man. Health matters. I know people want to act like it's an excuse, but it's part of the story of the 2024 season. Oklahoma was a mash unit on the offensive side of the ball. And so it was going to make it really, really difficult for them to have any kind of success. The fact that they even beat Alabama or played with Ole Miss for a half or, hung in there against LSU for a half. Like, the fact that they were doing that, it shows to the competitive nature of this team and this program. At the same time, I mean, it's got to be better. And if they can manage that 5-game stretch that you're talking about and have a lot of success in that, and that 4-game stretch at the end of the season to close out, November, I mean, you got 2 tough stretches of games, and we'll see, man. I think they're going to have a chance to flirt with the playoff. It's going to take a 10-2 record like we saw last year. I don't think 9-3 is going to get you the benefit of the doubt, even though you're playing in the SEC. I think you got to get to 10 wins if you're going to want to make the playoff. But getting to 9 and being in the discussion is such a drastic improvement from where we were a year ago that I think people will be relatively satisfied. Not 100% satisfied, because at Oklahoma, the expectation is to compete for conference and national titles. But to bounce back the way that if they go to 9-3, to bounce back like that, I think would have people feeling a lot better about the direction.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And you mentioned it before that the defense is going to dictate a lot of what's going to happen with Oklahoma anyway. And we know the defense was really good last year, and the expectation is the defense is going to be better this year. So I think Finebaum is even looking at that component of there's not that much pressure on Mateer's back to do everything.
Right.
He's going to have to do a lot. It's going to be him and Jaden Ott figuring out, doing a lot with this offensive line and the other skills positions, as a lot of them aren't, actually more so Deion Burks, Jaden Ott, and then Mateer. Those are your 3 central guys. And then everybody else you're trying to, lift up because they're a lot younger. But they don't have to be the ones that dictate everything. The defense is going to be the dictator. They're going to be the ones that's going to do everything possible to make sure that the offense gets favorable position at all times. And so, to me, that's kind of a big component in comparison to what we had to deal with last season.
One thing that's going to be very different is the quarterbacks that Oklahoma has to face in the 2025 season. Not as much experience as what they had to face in 2024. We're going to rank them coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Jay, let's start with the back half of these rankings because I think that just makes it more fun, keeps people in suspense a little bit. But we're ranking Oklahoma's SEC quarterback competition for 2025. So there's 8 quarterbacks in the SEC that Oklahoma will face this year. We're not going to talk about Bryce Underwood on this show. We're not going to talk about, the Temple quarterback or Kent State's quarterback, which, listen, Oklahoma should do just fine against those guys. Let's start with number 5 through 8. Here it is. At number 5, we got Jackson Arnold. Number 6, Austin Simmons. Number 7, Joey Aguilar. And number 8, Bo Pribula.
Yeah, I wrestled with those last 4 the most probably in my rankings. The top one, those top 4 were very easy. It was really where should Jackson Arnold be in comparison to Austin Simmons, which we saw a little bit of him, and he was pretty solid when he played in the games that he got to play. We haven't really seen much of Bo Pribula, so I definitely have him in the back. And Joey Aguilar did really good at Appalachian State, and because of that, I feel like even though he did come in the summer, late spring, early summer for Tennessee, it'd be interesting how they integrate him in the offense. I don't expect a big first year, but I do expect him to be similar to like a Hendon Hooker coming in his first year and doing just enough to help. The question is, Tennessee's defense is supposed to be better, but they don't have Dylan Simpson back there to carry the load. So we'll see if the run game is established the way that Hypo likes to do. Then at that point, I probably can give them a little bit more props. But like I said, that's where I wrestled the most is between Simmons, Arnold, when we were talking about it.
Yeah, I think at 7 and 8, for me, I have a greater level of trust with Josh Heupel as an offensive mind than I have with Mizzou. And so Joey Aguilar is going to get a little bit of a benefit of a doubt, especially considering he does have some collegiate production to his name. I think Bo Pribula, sorry, not Drew. That's Drew Lock. Bo Pribula, I think he's going to be a good quarterback. It's just prove it. Show us. I think that's where I'm at with that. But the Jackson Arnold, everybody knows, still a big Jackson Arnold guy. I think he's got all the tools and all the talent. To me, can he rebound from what 2024 was, which was littered with a lot of fumbles, a lot of indecision? If Hugh Freeze can get him processing faster, making decisions and being firm in his decisions, I think he has a chance to be really, really good this year with that group of wide receivers that they have at Auburn. And listen, everybody's bully on Austin Simmons, our guy Stephen Willis over at Locked On Ole Miss. I mean, he thinks he's got a chance to be a future number 1 overall pick. Like, that's how bullish he is on Simmons. And so Lane Kiffin's a really good quarterback developer as well. And maybe we should give him a little bit more credit and have him a little bit higher than what Hugh Freeze could do with Jackson Arnold. But again, show us. If you go out there and you prove it, by all means, man, you might fly up these rankings as the season goes along. We will update these as we go because things will change and we'll get more information. We'll get more data. So let's look at number 1 through 4, Jay, because this, I think, will have maybe some controversy in it. We got Garrett Nussmeier at number 1, Lenora Sellers number 2, Arch Manning at 3, and Ty Simpson at 4. Now, remember, this is SEC opposing quarterback rankings. We're not including John Mateer here.
Yeah, we're not including Mateer. We're not including Diego Pavia or any of the quarterbacks that Oklahoma won't see, Gunnar Stockton, etc. And the only struggle I had really was the Ty Simpson one, was to even put him in the top 4 because we haven't seen much of him as well. He'll be another new quarterback that Oklahoma's facing. And honestly, this Oklahoma defense is getting a pretty beneficial pull when it comes to that. I mean, the top 3 are really the only true experienced quarterbacks they're going to have to see that's been at their programs, and played a lot. The jury's out for me with Lenore Sellers as a passer. I've seen some really good stuff from him, but he's very much a threat because he moves around and does a really good job of moving his pocket to be able to complete passes across the middle or down the field. I need to see more of it. Gotta go watch some more film on him and see if I think he should be higher up. But it's definitely Garrett Nussmeier's number one. I mean, after he took that hit, got hurt against Oklahoma, took a couple, I guess, shots and got right back in the game and took more shots on the field and was playing at his mind. Yeah, he's definitely number one on the list. He showed up and showed out in that game. Even after he got that strip sack and we returned it for the touchdown, he's a little shaken up, brought another quarterback. The next thing you know, when Nussmeier got back in the game, completely different team. He was finding his wide receivers everywhere. So because he's also put up the most numbers of anybody, I'm still going to stick with him. There's no reason for me to believe that anybody else on the list is better than him until they prove it. You got to prove that to me.
Yeah, Garrett Nussmeier was awesome after getting hit. It's like it just like jolted him. He's like, all right, let's go play ball. And he just let it all hang out and just unleashed fury on Oklahoma's secondary. And it was really painful to watch. Also very impressive to watch him bounce back like that. To me, yeah, he's number one. If you're making any quarterback rankings for the SEC, anything that doesn't have him number one to me is mind boggling. I don't understand it because there's a lot of inexperience. There's a lot of, just lack of production elsewhere. And like you can talk DJ Lagway, you can talk Lenora Sellers, they're good quarterbacks. You can talk Arch Manning, potentially a good quarterback. They don't have the production that Garrett Nussmeier has. And to me, be one of the front runners in the SEC for quarterback of the year. Number two, Lenora Sellers. When we saw what he was capable of in a role where he didn't have to do a whole lot against Oklahoma, he managed the game very well. And all he had to do was kind of coast to a win in that one. But I think he's got the ability to be a big-time player for him. He was in some tighter ball games against like LSU, and he played well. It's just some of those games didn't go their way based on officiating, but I think he's got a lot to him. He's a South Carolina boy, so he takes it seriously. And he was one of those guys that was a 3-star prospect coming out of high school, and we see what that is doing, what the projection is doing. We're seeing him continue to develop. That kind of matters. Arch Manning, listen, I get everybody's like just kind of tired of the Arch Manning hype at this point. Get used to it. It's going to keep coming. He's a good quarterback. Is going to be a future number one overall pick. We'll see. Is he going to be somebody that's in Heisman contention this year? I don't know, but I think he's going to be good. That first game against Ohio State is going to tell us where's he at in his development. It could be a complete and abject disaster, or
really good.
He could be really, really good. It's going to be a big time environment that he's going to have to play in the shoe. And then with the Ty Simpson thing, to me, that's like Garrett Nussmeier light, right? A guy that stuck around his program for years. Remember, he was part of that 2022 recruiting class. Like, that's forever ago. But he stuck it out. He's been there in the program, and now he's getting developed by Kalen DeBoer, a really, really good quarterback developer. And now's the time for Ty Simpson to go and perform. When Oklahoma faces him, will be at the end of the season. So he will have that entire year of development, the entire year of snaps. Now he's got some good quarterbacks behind him that could push him for the job if he doesn't perform, but the tools are there. He was a former 5-star prospect for a reason. So the tools are there. Now it's just a matter of putting it out all on the field.
Yeah. The most critical thing with Arch Manning is he's going to have to show it against the top SEC talent. Like the last time we saw Arch play against one of the best defenses in the SEC, he got yanked out of the game. He didn't last very long.
Right.
And I mean, it happens when you're just kind of thrusted in there. And again, I understand the Arch Manning hype outside of even just his name, that he can play. I've seen his ability to move. He is Archie 100%, because Archie was a mobile quarterback. That dude used to run around. I mean, technically the Saints made him run around because he didn't have a choice. Like his team was that good around him, but at the same time, Archie was really mobile and moving, and that is exactly what you're going to get out of Arch. The thing that I think fans have to take in consideration, though, is for Oklahoma fans, like you said, you got to understand the hype's going to be there. It's not much you can do about that. He's not only his name, but his play in high school. He's going to get the hypes. For Texas fans, it's he didn't beat out Quinn Ewers, and all y'all did was complain about Quinn Ewers. So to me, it's if he's going to dominate like everyone believes, we probably would have saw glimmers of that last year. Mississippi State game, he was good. Cool. It was Mississippi State first year, Jeff Levy. It was the Louisiana Monroe. That's like me saying, John Mateer dominated against
Temple.
Yeah, name the team in the G5 that he played. Actually, even played against. Naming the teams he played against. He dominated in that game too. But we saw Mateer against Washington, who did really good in the Big Ten, in which the Big Ten has basically owned much of college football over the last couple of years. So and is a Washington team that, even though they had some changes, still had a good year in the Big Ten in their first year. So with their new head coaching staff. So to me, I can give Mateer just about as much props as I could give an Arch Manning, even though I've got production from John Mateer that I don't have at Arch Manning yet.
Yeah, and I think that's what's going to drive a lot of this discussion. If Arch Manning comes out and he has a good start to the season against Ohio State, I mean, he doesn't have to throw for three bills and 3 touchdowns for it to be a good game. I mean, if he has 200 something plus yards and he rushes for 50 and throws a couple touchdowns, and Texas either wins and beats Ohio State or they're competitive in that game, I don't think it's going to slow down the Arch hype train. But if he comes out and he completes less than 50% of his passes and has a couple picks and doesn't, show that mobility against what's going to be a really good Ohio State defense, or he looks indecisive, that's going to be kind of telling. But, that's a big matchup to start the season. It's getting the ESPN College Game Day treatment as Lee Corso's last game, which is going to be kind of emotional for a lot of people who have been watching College Game Day for 30 years. And then that very next week, Oklahoma could end up being a host for College Game Day as they get Michigan in prime time. So, But anyway, that this is going to be a hype season because everybody's been waiting on Texas to be really, really good. Everybody's been waiting on Arch and his debut season as a starter. But it's going to be a lot of fun. So let us know, who do we have too high? Who do we have too low in our opponent SEC quarterback rankings? Let us know in the YouTube chat. You can also follow us at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms and let us know over there. Get angry, get mad. It's fine. We can take it. It's going to be a lot of fun. But it's that time of year where we can have debate, and we're going to embrace debate here on this show. But follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. You can follow me at John 9 Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all your favorite social media platforms. And what else? Hey, go leave us a 5-star review over at Apple. I've not called for that in a long time, but if you're an everydayer with us and you enjoy the show, go leave us a 5-star review on Apple. Make sure other people can find the show wherever they get their podcasts. But until next time, he's Jay Smith, who I think is frozen because he's got hotel Wi-Fi. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you next time. Boomer Sooner.